You know what's funny? People ask me all the time, Richard, how much can I make building an offer? And they expect me to give them a number, a figure, or a promise. And I get it, because when you're sitting in a job that pays you the same, whether you're brilliant or average, you want to know if building something of your own is worth the risk. The question makes a complete sense. This is what I want to spend the next 10 minutes unpacking with you. The money is actually the smallest thing that changes when you build an offer. I want to say that again. The money is actually the smallest thing that changes when you build an offer. I know that sounds backwards, but I want to stay with me because what I have watched happen in the lives of the professionals I work with is that the income shows up, yes, but then all these other things start shifting quietly, dramatically, and permanently. And most of those things, nobody's making a YouTube video about them. I'm glad we're going to talk about them in this video. So today, I'm going to break down exactly what building your offer really unlocks long term. I'm going to give you 5 things. I promise you, by number 3, you'll be looking at this whole conversation totally differently. Let me take you back to 2013. I was a statistics student at university here in Uganda, and somehow I still don't fully understand how. But then I ended up at a business breakfast hosted by an association that had invited Dr. Myles Munroe to speak. The ticket cost 150,000 Ugandan shillings, roughly about $100 at that time. Now, I was a student. This was not a small amount, but then I paid it. In that room, I watched a man who had taken the contents of his mind, his thinking, his frameworks, his principles, and packaged them in such a way that people from multiple countries could get on a plane just to be in the room with him. He wasn't selling information. He was selling transformation. And the room was paying for the privilege of being changed. I left that breakfast not thinking about money. I left thinking this is what it looks like when a human being fully inhabits their purpose. And so from 2013 to today, through building youth mentorship programs, financial training community, a telemedicine company called NetDog that we grew to 4 countries, every path I took kept confirming the same truth. The offer is not just a product. The offer is a declaration. It says, I know what I know. I know who I can serve. And I have decided to stop hiding. Now, let me show you what that declaration actually unlocks, because it's far more than a paycheck. So here are 5 things. I've said 5, and I mean 5, not a list of 20 that you'll forget before the video ends. 5. Each one builds on the last. And here's the thing. By the time I get to number 5, I want you to do something for me. I want you to drop a comment below and tell me which one hit hardest for you. I will tell you why at the end. All right, so let's get to 1. Number 1, you discover what you're actually worth. So let's get into it. Number 1, unlock. What does an offer unlock to you long term? You discover what you're actually worth. Here's a question nobody asks you in a job. What would the market pay for your knowledge if your employer wasn't in the middle? Think about that. Not your salary, not your title, not your performance rating. What would the market pay you? I'm talking to you. What would the market pay you? See, most professionals have never asked that question. And the reason is that employment by design insulates you from that answer. The company sets the rate and you accept it. You improve, they adjust, you accept again. Then the loop repeats itself. But the moment you sit down and go through phase 1 of the phase 2 of a builder, the extraction phase, you start cataloging what you actually know. The problems you solve daily that most people couldn't solve without you. The judgment calls you make that took years to develop. The systems in your head that you never written down because that's just how I do it, you say. And so when you translate that into an offer, something specific, priced, deliverable, that the market responds to. And the market is the most honest thing you'll ever encounter. The market doesn't care about your employer. It doesn't pay based on your years of experience. It doesn't pay based on your sex, whether you're female or male. It pays you based on the value of the transformation you can produce. When you find out what the market thinks you're worth, without your employer in the room, everything changes. I call that your first rude awakening. Yes, that's your first rude awakening. Rude because it's usually much higher than you thought. I can guarantee you, it's much higher than you thought. So, number one, it gives you a rude awakening. Number two, it unlocks the unlock number two, you stop being defined by a job description. Yes, you stop being defined by a job description. You know how LinkedIn works? You put your job title at the top. Director of Finance, Head of HR, Senior Technology Manager. And your whole professional identity fits inside a box that your company created. That box is useful. I'm not knocking it, but it's not you. That box is not you. Let me use a movie to illustrate this. You remember The Dark Knight? Bruce Wayne lost his fortune, lost his resources. At one point, he lost access to the Batcave and every piece of the equipment in it. And Bruce Wayne, stripped of everything, still knew how to be Batman, because Batman was never the gadgets. Batman was the obsession, the discipline, the way of thinking. The gadgets were just the offer. When you build your offer, you begin to understand the difference between what you do and who you are. This is so huge. See, your job description captures what you do. Your offer captures who you are. And that identity, the one your offer reveals, is portable. It doesn't disappear in a restructuring. It doesn't get capped by a salary band. It doesn't depend on one decision maker's opinion of you. Think about one of my clients, Ruth Wangui. He's a CPA and CPHR, Human Resource Manager. Accomplished, respected. But for years, brilliant as she was living inside a box that said HR Manager. That was the identity the world gave her. After working with me in the King's Court, she built an offer helping burned out corporate professionals find work that actually aligns with who they are. The day she described her offer to me, the way she described it, I knew something had shifted inside her. Because she wasn't describing a service, she was describing herself. The real version, the one the job description never had room for. Let's jump to the third thing, what unlocks. So unlock number 3, you develop a relationship with your own thinking. You develop a relationship with your own thinking. What does this mean? This one is so simple, but it might be the most powerful of the 5. Most professionals are brilliant thinkers who have never been required to articulate their thinking at a commercial level. That has not happened to them. So you know how to solve the problem. You've been solving it for years. But could you write down the framework? Could you name the steps? Could you describe the process in a way that a stranger outside your company, outside your industry could follow? Probably not. Because your employer never needed you to. They just needed you to do it. Just do it. But building an offer forces you to externalize your thinking, to name the thing, to sequence it, to make it transferable. And what happens when you do that? When you finally write down what's been living in your head, what happens is that you start to respect your own mind in a very different way. You realize this isn't common knowledge. This is hard-won expertise. And there are people in the world right now who are struggling with exactly this problem that I could solve in my sleep. That's what happened to my other client, Catherine Mahome, has the FCII, the highest professional qualification in insurance globally. She's been training, speaking, and mentoring in the insurance industry for years. But her thinking, her frameworks, her approach to leadership development in insurance, had never been packaged. When we built her insurance leadership accelerator together, she said something I'll never forget. She said, I didn't know my thinking was that deep until I had to write it down for someone else. Think about what I've just said. That's the unlock I'm talking about, not just a product, a new relationship with your own intellectual capacity. I would love to call it a revelation of your own mastery. And this brings me to unlock number 4. You said 5, so we are number 4. You build something that outlives the transaction. Yes, for the first time, you make a mark in the sand of history. Let me ask you something. When you deliver value in your job, when you solve a problem, complete a project, close a deal, what do you have to show for it after the paycheck clears? What do you have to show for it? Nothing permanent. The company has the asset. You just have the memory and salary. Now, I wanted to contrast it with what happens when you build an offer. Your offer is your IP, your intellectual property. It's a framework with your name on it. It's a methodology that carries your thinking into rooms you'll never physically enter. It's a system that can serve people while you sleep, or while you're on leave, or while you're taking care of your family, or while you're building the next version of yourself. Think about what Myles Munroe built. The breakfast I attended in 2013, he passed away in 2014, but his books, his messages, his frameworks, they are still changing lives. He built offers. He packaged his thinking. Those offers compounded long after the transaction. In fact, right now, his children are benefiting from those offers. You can check out Munroe Global. You see, so a salary is a transaction. An offer is a legacy asset. The difference is not the amount. It's whether it lives beyond you. One of my clients, a CPA, Director of Finance at a Seed Global Health in the States, 18 years of experience across international NGOs. She built the Financial Reporting Clarity Insight Program, a deep dive for non-profit leaders on what's blocking clean, board-ready financial reporting. See, that offer now exists in the world independently of her showing up to a 9 to 5. It carries her expertise. It delivers her values. And every client it transforms is a living proof that her knowledge has a life beyond her employer. That's the 4th unlock. That's what you start building. If you're thinking deeply to what I'm saying, you realize this is how you change the world. This is how you make history, through creating offers. So this means, what is this saying? You start building something that belongs to you and that can outlive any single job, any single contract, any single season of your career. So let's come to the last one. Unlock number 5. What does it unlock? You give yourself permission to take up space. Yes, you give yourself permission to take up space. I saved this one for the last because it's the hardest to explain and the most life-changing to experience. Years of corporate employment teaches you something nobody says out loud. It teaches you to fit in, to shrink your ideas to the size of a meeting agenda, to soften your voice so you don't make the room uncomfortable, to qualify every strong opinion with "but, of course, I could be wrong." And you've been doing that for 5, 10, 15 years. You get very good at it. It becomes automatic. But here's what happens when you build an offer that the market responds to. When a stranger, someone who does not work at your company, does not owe you loyalty, has no obligation to be polite to you, pays you for your thinking, something shifts. Oh yes, something shifts. The market confirming your value is fundamentally different from your employer paying you salary. One is obligation, the other is choice. When someone chooses to pay you, without institutional context, without your title, just because of what you know and how you deliver it. You stop being able to minimize yourself in the same way. The data won't let you. So this is what happened to one of my clients, Catherine Oshako, former head of technology, had been through one of the most painful professional experiences a person can face. She was let go from her job and she came to the work carrying that weight. She built the comeback code, helping women who had their world shattered by betrayal, dismissal, and shame rise again. See, from crisis to clarity, from shame to strength. The offer didn't just create income. It reauthored her. It said, the hardest thing you went through is now your most valuable gift. And the women you serve don't just get a framework, they get someone who has walked the road. You see, your offer gives you permission to take up the space you were always supposed to occupy. Not arrogantly, but purposefully. I would say it, the offer is how you occupy your promised land. Now, let me be straight with you for a second. None of what I just described comes from wanting to build an offer. It comes from actually doing it. And I know the thing that's in the way for most people watching this, it isn't effort. You're not lazy. I know who watches these videos. You are a working professional with a full calendar, real responsibilities, and zero time to gamble on something unclear. The problem isn't motivation. The problem is that no one has ever shown you a system designed specifically for someone in your position. A system built for the person who is still employed, still delivering at a job, still protecting their reputation, and who needs to build something real without tearing their current life apart. You've never had opportunity for such a system. This is exactly what the two-phase offer builder for busy professionals was built to do. Phase one is extraction. You identify the exact problems you solve, the skill assets buried inside your daily work, and you get ruthlessly clear on who would actually pay you for that outside your employer. That's phase one. Phase two is packaging. You structure it, you price it, you make it deliverable, you make it real. That's phase two. No audience required, no quitting fast, no 18-month journey into the unknown. So I promised you 5 things. I delivered the 5 things. You discover what you're actually worth. You stop being defined by a job description. You develop a relationship with your own thinking. You build something that outlives the transaction. And you give yourself permission to take up space. Those are the 5 things. Now, here's what I want you to do. Because we planted a loop at the start of this section. And I always close my loops. Okay, I want you to drop a comment below right now. Which of the 5 unlocks hit you the hardest? Not because I'm collecting data. Because I'm going to take the answer that comes up most, the one that resonates deepest, and I'm going to build a dedicated video around it. Deeper, more practical, more specific. That video will only get made if you tell me what you need. So I'll ask you to tell me. If you've been sitting on your expertise for months, maybe years, waiting for the right moment, waiting until you have more time, waiting until the uncertainty feels smaller, I want to gently ask you, what if the right moment isn't waiting for the conditions to change? What if the right moment is the decision to stop waiting? Think about what I'm saying. My Tuesday live workshop is where I work directly with professionals to build their offer, from extraction to packaging, to their first paying client, not in theory, in practice, with their actual expertise, their actual schedule, the actual constraints. The link is in the description. If this resonated, not if you're curious, but if this genuinely hit something real, I want to shake it out, and I will see you in the live Zoom room. If you are new here, I ask you subscribe, because every video on this channel is designed to do one thing: help you turn what you already know into something that the world will pay you for. And if you know someone, maybe a colleague, a friend, someone brilliant who is dramatically charging for what they know, share this with them. That one share might be the thing that changes the direction of their years. I will see you in the next one.